Hello and welcome to the Fulhamish quick take after Fulham's 2-1 victory over Forest at the Cottage. What a performance by the Whites. We chopped down the tricky trees for the second time this season. I'm joined here at Craft Beer Co by Jack Collins. Hello.
Hello, Sammy. How you doing?
I'm very good. That was a highly enjoyable afternoon. God, Fulham are brilliant.
That's the best I've seen us play, in particularly at home, in a long time.
Name that time.
You can look at the Brentford game, I think, and say that we were dominant that day, but frustrating. In terms of a cohesive and competent, well put together performance against serious opposition, that is as good as I've seen us, I think, this season. At home, you'd have to stretch back into last to actually find an occasion where we have been that put together, that well executed in our game plan, all of it in one whole kind of holistic bunch. It was absolutely brilliant, and I, hand on heart, was terrified of this game. I thought it was perfectly set up for Forest. I thought we were a team that wanted to dominate the ball at home, and I don't know what it is about us, but we seem to be able to give them problems. If you'd said to me before the game, how are Fulham going to score both their goals against the Nottingham Forest back line that included Nikola Milenkovic, who's probably been the best aerial centre-back in the Premier League this season, Maria, who's brilliant, and then Morato for added height, you go, well, we're going to get two headers. I would have laughed at you, right? But we kept stinging the ball in aerially, and it kept working. And I don't know whether it's we are one of the few teams who are able to physically stand them up. And we've spoken about this before, right, on the podcast, that Marco Silva wants a team that are physically dominant in a variety of senses, right? It's not all just really big players who are good in the air, but physically dominant in their various roles. And today, I think we outplayed Forest in terms of physicality, which has been their calling card for so much of this season, and they couldn't deal with it.
It was amazing, wasn't it? I say, before the game, we were in the pub, we saw that Forest were playing five at the back, and I was thinking, how on earth are we going to break down this Forest team? But just from minute one, it's just like we've made chance after chance after chance. I don't think it's a stretch today that if Fulham had won that, I think 5's a bit much, but I think Fulham won that 4-1. And actually, considering the few chances that Forest made, if that had been a 3 or 4-0, I think that actually would have been a bit more reflective of the game.
I think that 5-1 probably would have been very fair, and actually credit has to go to Matt Sells, who I've been critical of in the past. I thought he was exceptional today, and without a few unbelievable saves, the one from Raul in the first half in particular is absolutely outrageous. Now, I think he gets a little bit lucky at times, I think the Adam one hits him, but you make your own luck in terms of being goal, and I thought he was dominant today, and still Fulham scored twice. We had 24 shots today, 10 on target, and that is a performance that, one, slightly worrying that it takes us that many to actually score twice, but I think that generally the performance as a whole deserved a bigger scoreline than this. And I'm not saying we Bournemouthed Nottingham Forest. I actually think it was, if you actually compare the two performances side by side, I think Forest were more in the game against Bournemouth than they were against us today. And they lost that game 5-0. Now, obviously, they've bounced back since then, and I don't want to take away from this Forest side. They played on Tuesday, 120 minutes, went to penalties against Exeter, away from home, long journey. A lot of the main men had to come in for that game, especially towards extra time with injuries, etc. And I think that they looked fatigued today from kind of the opening moments of the game. But Fulham took full advantage of that, and there have been plenty of games this season where we've been at home and we've not been able to take advantage of teams who have shown signs of weakness. Today, I thought we exploited all of them in almost every way possible.
The first goal was Emil Smith-Rowe with another header. He scored his first header. He scored his first header against Leicester, and now he's got one against Forest. But the goal came from the right-hand side.
East Midlands teams.
Yes, particularly with his head. Adama Traore with the assist. That man was brilliant today because it was his cross for Jimenez that potentially should have done a little bit better. Just felt like he had Nico Williams' number today. Yeah,
and actually to give some credit to the brilliant Dan Cook, we were talking after the game, and he said completely correctly that last year Ola Aina was one of the few players we've seen completely shut down Adama Traore, and so instead today they just decided to play Nico Williams there instead, and he got cooked left, right and centre by Adama. Adama was brilliant today, and when he starts, he often is. I think this is a thing that we've come to realise. Adama, in principle, is the world's best impact sub. Right? Like, everything about him screams that he should be a wonderful impact substitute. He's not. Every time he comes off the bench, he seems to lose flow of the game, lose track of it. And I don't want to criticise him because today he did absolutely everything right. He took his man on the outside every time. He beat him every single time. The crosses, almost to a to a man, were absolutely brilliant. The one for the Emil Smith Rowe goal is sensational. The one for Raul's might be even better, where he doesn't actually take advantage of it. But those crosses and those balls into the box, where he's sometimes a little bit all over the place, were on the money every single time. I think he's a little bit unlucky not to score with the strike he takes in the second half. I just thought he was wonderful, really, really wonderful. And you know what? We were worried about what it was going to look like with Harry Wilson out for a little while, who's been so good this season. Adama stepped into the fray here today and went, it's going to be all right, it's going to be cool, and I believe him.
Emil Smith Rowe with the goal, as I say, another header. I thought that I don't think it was like a 10 out of 10 performance from ESR today, but I thought it was a little bit back to the Smith Rowe I expected when we signed him. He wanted the ball. He dealt with the ball well in tight pockets of space, found often Jedi or Iwobi on the left, and just seemed like he actually was embracing getting the ball, whereas I feel like for the last month and a bit, he has looked a bit scared of getting the football. And weirdly, it took a very good opposition today for Emil Smith Rowe to kind of show some of his best. It's not perfect. I don't think we're 100% there. No. Smith Rowe's back, but I'm seeing a chink of light here.
With a caveat, yes, to everything you've said, is that this all began when he scored. For the opening minutes, he wasn't bad. He just didn't really have anything going on. And then suddenly he scores a goal, and it's like the confidence floods through him, and suddenly he's demanding the ball. Suddenly he's taking on a player. Suddenly he's skipping past a few challenges. And it's like, can we see that from the start? We believe in you. You need to believe in you. And when he scores, he then suddenly opens up. And it was similar at Leicester, I thought. He scores the goal, and then suddenly he starts being the main man in the middle. Now, I will say that he still fades late in games. And again, this isn't really meant to come across as criticism. I think the substitution for Andreas came at the right time, if not slightly too late, in terms of his impact in the game. Passes have started to get a little sloppy. That's fine. I would take a 60-minute Emil Smith Rowe at his best if he starts hot. And I feel like I need him to be able to come into games and be like, cool, I'm going to take this game by the scruff of the neck. It's almost like it takes a kind of kindling spark for him to actually feel the fire within himself. And then suddenly he's brilliant. And he's running through midfields and he's taking on players who, 10 minutes beforehand, he was sort of turning around from and knocking the ball out. And I wonder if there is just some sort of confidence thing there that's going on. And look, this is all speculation, obviously. But I do find it interesting that he seems to come alive once he's had something that clearly floods him with confidence in these two cases that we're talking about, the goal.
I mean, from one man that seems to need a big spark and a big injection to improve his performances, Chris Wood just seems to need one chance. I mean, considering how on top Fulham were in that first half, it was incredibly frustrating to go in at 1-1. It was the only thing. I don't think I'm exaggerating here. I think it was the only almost foray into our box. Yeah. One chance, one goal. Didn't realise in real time that the Bassi deflection is actually what gets it past Bernd Leno and gets it into the corner. But no, you can't take it away from Chris Wood. That's just sensational.
The strength to basically bosh two centre-backs and with his back to them and be leave one of them on the deck and then take the deflection off the other is sublime. And that's a man in form, right? And you have to give credit to the way that he took the chance. Maybe the deflection helps, obviously, in terms of the finish, but the way that he opens the chance up for himself, you knew from the moment that he got that inch of space that the ball was going to end up in the back of the net, and that's what happens when you have a man on fire, right? And it was a little bit terrifying, I think, at that point. I went for a pint at that point. I was like, nah, we've been so good. We've been exceptional. We've created chance after chance. We have dominated them, and we're going to go in at 1-1. I was like, I'm going for a drink. I need one. But that's what happens when you have someone of his caliber, and I think it's okay to say of his caliber now. We're looking at a player who has always been a good footballer, but I think lacked the maybe confidence, but also kind of a team around him that got the best out of him, and we're seeing that. And there were passages of play even in the second half. There wasn't much from Forest today. Everything that was good about them, I thought, came in those transitional moments. There's a lovely layoff that he does. It's just after Callum Hudson-Odoi comes on, I think. It's instinctive. And I thought that his performance was still impressive in a game where Forest didn't really have any of the ball. Not that that's necessarily new, but also where chances were at a real premium. Everything that felt dangerous that happened in our final third came through Chris Wood, I thought.
Yeah, I was really pleased then that given the setback and given that Forest had a chance to regroup, I was a bit nervous about the second half because I just thought, did we not take our opportunities in the first half? That was exactly about where my head was at. I was like, we should have been at 2-3 up at half time. Are we now going to be punished by this ruthless Forest side? But actually, if anything, Fulham stepped on it in the second half. Obviously, it's Calvin Bassey who gets the winner. Brilliant flick from Raul, who was
Brilliant, like, routine. I love that. We haven't seen so many routines this season. We've seen a lot of corners where people have been very frustrated. In fact, my brother and I call him out here. He said, play it short. There's no way we're going to score with this Forest side in the box. And then, obviously, we immediately scored, which was great. And
Well
also,
done, Tom.
normally it's me that does that. So I was pleased it was someone else for a change. But, like, yeah, I think that having the man at the front post, and it's not something completely new, right? We've seen Fulham with front post flicks before that we've attacked at the back stick, but it's not something we've seen loads of this season. And I thought that the delivery from Sasha was excellent. It was right on the money. The flick on from Raul is exquisite as well. And then obviously the header back across from Calvin Bassey, brilliant. Like arriving at the back stick. I love an arriving. Like there's a real something about a player arriving late that is wonderful to watch. And in like real time, you could see it happening. You could see him steaming in. And I was like, he's going to score. He's going to go and score here. So it was nice to see Fulham put together a routine. Look, we've seen how important they are this season, right? And not just this season, but there's been a lot of talk about Arsenal, their set-piece routines and the way that they've created chances. We've seen it before from Brentford, you know, their long throws and the flick-ons that they've done. We saw a couple of really clever ones from them even in the Championship. And it's felt like something, since maybe the days of the screen in the Championship, that we haven't really seen from Fulham. There was a little bit, I think, for a while of just stick it on Palhinha's head and hope. And obviously we lost the ability to do that this season, and it's felt like we were a little bit, even with a lot of big players in there, it was a little bit just whack it in the mixer and see what happens. I really, really enjoyed seeing a planned routine come off.
I think one big negative today is the potential injury to Sasa Lukic. We don't know what the extent of it is. I was kind of encouraged to see him walking off fairly normally.
He
But
didn't go down the tunnel. I think this is really important. And look, I could be wrong, but I think if a player is seriously injured, they go down the tunnel.
yeah,
And the fact he went back round to the bench, sat on the bench, and also came running out of the bench when something happened in injury time made me feel a little bit better about the whole thing.
well, fingers crossed that is just...
He was immense.
Yeah.
Like, just I didn't want to cut across you,
No,
sorry.
fine.
But, like, the control, the poise that he showed in the middle of the park today, and that Berger, Lukic, you know, pivot seems to be going from strength to strength. I got to say, I'm not completely sold on the whole Lukic in the middle of our pitch shot. Like, I know we shouldn't be picky. We don't have loads of chance to pick from. But I was like...
You find another word that rhymes with Lukic.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of words that rhyme with Sasha, like, you know, we can work. Anyway, fair play. People create chance, they catch on, that one's caught on. But I was like, ooh, really?
I thought then the subs for Fulham really made an impact. You
I was
mentioned-
waiting for it. Go on.
No, okay.
Do your thing.
All right. I wasn't going to get there just yet. But yes, I was going to say that Muniz was good. I thought that Andreas was good. I thought that Cess was nice to see. And then we brought on this guy called Willian, who we brought back. Did you hear about this? We brought back Willian.
Yeah.
And
I did hear about it, yeah.
and I seem to remember there was a podcast where I said, what Willian's going to be great for is when you're goal up in a really tight game against a really difficult opponent, and how well they're going to hold on to the ball and make sure that we hold on to victories. And I think that's what happened today. So what did you make of it?
Yeah, he was brilliant. Like, he was sensational. I really, really enjoyed it, and obviously it was super cool seeing him back and playing like that, right? And I will be honest with you, when him and Cess came on with like 4 or 5 minutes to play, I was like, Marco's playing to the fans, and when we concede 92nd minute equaliser here, I am going to be livid. But Marco Silva knows best, and the way that we kept the ball in those areas was exceptional. I don't think that this today changes my stance that Fulham should have brought in another player there. I think that if you saw, let's just say Adama picked up a knock in the 30th minute and we had to run Willian out for 60 minutes, I would have been really, really concerned about that. And I think that considering Marco said last week that it was going to take a few weeks to get him up to speed so that he could actually get into match fitness, etc., that would have stressed me out. 10 minutes at the end, fine. And I feel like 10 minutes at the end of games is okay. But when we have 2 starting wingers right now and nothing else in the tank, I am concerned that an injury to either of those probably ends Fulham's chances at getting anything out of this season, more than finishing mid-table. So, I'm not coming back from that point. And at the time I was like, Willian's a fine signing in isolation. I think that we needed more, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he came on, was brilliant, should have shot. What on earth was he doing?
Do you think? I thought it was a brilliant layoff.
He could do no wrong with you, but obviously, the goal is opening up. The Willian corner has opened up. Imagine if he'd scored with his first touch back. It would have been...
I would have literally ran up and found you. I would have
been fine, and I would have accepted it. You know what? It would have eased my stress. It would have been completely fine. One of those. But look, it was a wonderful move. And if we had scored after the layoff, it would one of those goals we'll be going on about for absolutely forever, right? So credit where it's due. I thought he was excellent. I hope that he is up to match speed, in terms of being able to use him for 30 minutes quite soon, so that we can start to utilise and rotate a little bit more in those areas. I think that's important going into this period of the season. But hands up, he was exceptional today.
And finally, Jack, to wrap up, 8th position. Fulham have now moved up to, because Aston Villa drew with Ipswich today.
Come on the tractor, boys.
Come on the tractor, boys. This feels like a significant moment. It's far from being ours. Obviously, 8th place could be the first Europa Conference League position. It's likely to be.
Last as well.
Yeah. It feels like a significant moment. Look, there's 14 games of the season left. There's still a long way to go. Fulham nearly at 40 points as well. It just feels like today was a massively significant victory, or might be, I guess, is the key point here.
I think, we after the West Ham game, we probably looked at it and thought it's probably going to be very difficult now to actually get into those European spots. I think the title of the podcast afterwards was Puts Passport Away. And today felt like the game where we clawed back the points that perhaps we didn't deserve to win that day. And not in terms of performance today, we absolutely deserved all 3. But in terms of when you're looking at games on the schedule from where we were, this was one that I had marked down as a loss. I really thought we were going to struggle today. And look, Fulham surprise us in these moments. We talked about it before Newcastle, we talked about it before this game. These are the games that occasionally Fulham really dig into and really show something. But the performance today, more than the result, I think is the thing that sticks out for me, because you're looking at that and you look at the Forest away game. Yes, we won, and yes, it was a really good defensive performance. But did we deserve all 3 points that day?
Yeah.
You tell me. But I think that was hard. Today, we absolutely fundamentally took a team who have been brilliant apart. And without a really, really impressive goalkeeping performance, it was just completely put together in terms of where we were and what we were doing. And I was so impressed that I think we now have this opportunity to go back against Palace next week, a very winnable game, right, in terms of where we're at and in terms of what we're doing. But Palace are good, and just shouldn't take away from them. They've been, unbelievable in the last couple of months under Glasner. I'm not trying to disparage Palace, but we know we've beaten them at Selhurst Park. We know that if we perform like that today, we go and win that game again. If we get to 8th and we win again, I think that our destiny remains in our own hands. Yes, we've still got to match Villa all the way through, and whoever drops in and out of those places all the way through to the end of the season. But I think that if we can put together performances like that, and that we talked before about the fact that March is a little bit lighter, we can maybe have a little bit more of a rest, all of those things matter. This felt like a really, really significant win today for Fulham.
It did indeed, and that'll do for the quick take. Thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you, Sammy. Always a pleasure.
What are you drinking, by the way, here at Craft Beer Co? You're testing their selection of spirits.
That's a Tullamore Dew and ginger beer, so yeah, it's very, very delicious.
And I'm on the Brullo, the non-alcoholic, absolutely delicious. Got a fantastic range of non-alcoholics here, and all sorts of beers here at Craft Beer Co. So if you're here for Palace next week, do pop in and check it out. It's getting a lot busier with Fulham fans, we've noticed lately, which is obviously you guys. So thank you very much. Let us know what you thought of the game down in the comments. Hit subscribe if you haven't already on the channel, and we'll see you very soon. You whites.
You whites.